people when I'm teaching this, and I usually teach one of these every couple of months, an all-day workshop. But when I do this, and I tell people, you listen to the news, and you change everything that's on there. When you hear that your city is a high-crime city, you say, no, it's not. This city is safe and secure. Help the universe. Help the people around you instead of agreeing with whatever fabricated story they're coming up with.
Very interesting. I think also that a lot of people hold a belief that they cannot affect or impact the unmanifest realm or change what is already manifested, and that somehow the news goes into the mental fabric, it goes into our belief structure, it goes into consciousness, and it's assumed as truth. It's assumed as facts.
Right. And things can always be changed. Always.
Let's talk about manifesting millions. Have you read The Millionaires of Genesis?
Yes.
What'd you think of that book?
I think it's fabulous.
Share a little about it. Do you remember the pieces of it?
No, just that was taken from the Old Testament of how people had their own belief systems, and if they believed in themselves, they could manifest money. And it just shows Catherine was a genius at taking the Bible and putting it into the now, to be able to realign the people that she was working with, the people that she taught, taking something that, was 2,000 years old and changing it into, why don't we do that now?
Was it 2,000 or 6,000 years old?
Well, the Old Testament was 6,000. The New Testament's shorter.
Got it. Okay. When you first were speaking, you were speaking of the Old Testament. So you're talking about creating a metaphysical alignment for the New Testament, correct?
Right.
Okay. Tithing. There's so much misunderstanding about tithing.
Mm-hmm.
Can you share with us, there's this belief that when you tithe 10%, you create a huge vacuum for manifestation. Is that correct?
Well, that's correct, but the people have to also accept it and begin to believe it. If they believe it as they first start it, it works immediately. But if they say, I'm going to say, well, I have to get a pay raise, or I have to get, Uncle Joe has to give me some money, or I get a new job, or work overtime, or to get the extra money, then that's what they're going to have to do, and it doesn't work for them. But when people can believe, I tithed, and begin to look, because people don't always see that the way that they're gaining extra is from the common everyday things that they wouldn't have thought about. For example, if you go to the grocery store and all the groceries are on sale that you need that day, and you get $100 of groceries for only about $50 or $60, you got a good deal. You just got a bonus. Or if you're clothes shopping and you go in and somebody's just putting the correct blouse that you just needed for a particular outfit and it's half price, you just got a deal. The universe has heard you. And that's the way that it begins to start. Your gas goes further. All of a sudden you fill up your tank with gas and it goes and goes and goes and goes and goes and runs and runs. And you realize that something has happened in your car.
What constitutes a tithe from your perspective and Catherine Ponder's perspective?
10% of your income.
Right off the top, first fruits?
Right off the top.
And that goes where?
That goes to the person where you receive spiritual help. And a lot of times it doesn't work because you're giving it to the wrong place. People who would come into our church would continue to tithe at the church they grew up in. But they never went there anymore. They didn't even live in that town. Their parents didn't live there. But they felt like this was a small country church and they needed to support it. And they're not getting any help from it. They're getting the help from what they're listening to on Sundays now. They're getting a whole new value. But they're not able to switch that tithe to the place where they get spiritual help. And sometimes that differs, because there are people that don't go to church. that are still tithing to something or somebody, and it can be other things that they're getting help from. For example, a Red Cross or Salvation Army or somebody like that really has taken them under their wings and said, here, we'll help you.
Let's say that somebody's giving 10% of their income or 10% of their company income, either personal or company. Doesn't matter, or does it matter?
Both.
Let's say they give it to feeding the children or bringing water where it's needed so people have clean, fresh drinking water. Is that considered also tithing?
Not if you're not getting spiritual help from them. You have to be getting spiritual help. But that would be considered a donation under the rule that if you tithe to your spiritual help, then you can give an extra blessing if you wanted to give another 10%, which would make the 20%. But on that 10%, the extra 10%, you can claim much greater returns on it because that's over and above the requirement. It's like you're giving the universe a bonus. And I want to help this person, or I want to do this. Then the blessings really begin to come back in unforeseen ways that are so helpful, so bountiful, that it's just joy.
What do you say to very religious people who are coming from a paradigm or mindset that sees metaphysics and receives metaphysics as a kind of devilish anti-Jesus or anti-God thing?
That's a good one. I tell them that they need to study it a little bit and find out more in detail, that it's a benefit that can help the whole world become more receivable because it brings in gratitude. It brings in a lot of thanksgiving. It brings in a lot of who can we help today type thing. It really is one of the most beneficial things that would happen if we could get the whole world tithing.
You know how I found out that the Bible was metaphysical? Through Joel Osteen. And Joel Osteen, in very traditional religious communities, they really don't like him. But for people that are open and more receptive to the deep metaphysical translation of the Bible, he does it brilliantly. He's one of them that does it.
Yeah.
You agree?
Yes.
Have you gone to hear Joel?
I listen to him on the radio. No, I haven't seen him in person.
He's quite a guy.
Yeah.
How old were you when you met Catherine Ponder?
I was probably about 25.
How did you meet her, and how did you start in metaphysics with her?
She was had the Unity Church in San Antonio, and she was giving her lessons in one of the hotels downtown because the church was too small for her. She couldn't fit them all in. So she did the service in one of the churches.
And what happened to you?
I liked it. I thought it was a wonderful attitude and a way to have, and she was telling me things I'd never heard of before. My parents came from Southern Baptist and a lot of hellfire and damnation, and I had not believed that. And when I was 5 years old, I decided there was no God. And my father was talking about God one day, and my brother said something smart aleck, and I turned to him, and I just heard the word fool. And I thought, I'm going to use that word, and he won't know what it means. So I turned to him, and I said, oh, you fool, to my brother. And my father snatched me up by my shirt top and said, pointing his fingers at me, thou shalt not call thy brother a fool, for thou art in danger of hellfire and damnation. Calleth his brother a fool. And I knew that I was going to die that night when I went to bed. I told everybody goodbye, that I would not wake up the next morning. 5 years old. And when I woke up the next morning, the only thing that ran through my head was, if God, Daddy's fooled. There is no God. I didn't die. And from the time I was 5 until I was in my late 20s, I did not believe in God because my daddy was being fooled and all the things he had told me were not true. And when I started going to Catherine, got into metaphysics, I understood that this God that was supposed to be throwing thunderbolts was not a person. that it was an energy field, a force field that was cause and effect.
Was your mind